Now, 8 years ago, I took the plunge and bought my first hardware synth, moving from using only VSTs in my music. And since then, I've been able to try so many different synths, and I'm happy to say that we really are living in the golden age of hardware synthesizers. Almost everything you can buy from almost every manufacturer is really great, and you can make great music with anything. But there's only a few synths that I truly mean it when I say I will take to my grave, and you will have to pry them out of my cold, dead hands. If you know my channel, then some of these might be obvious choices, but some of them might really surprise you, so make sure to watch till the end. Before we begin, let's define what makes a truly timeless synthesizer. And I don't think it's features. If you watched my last video, I talked about why inspiration and character matter to me more than features, and I think for something that I will never sell, that is even more true. For this reason, I'm not going to include any VSTs on my list, despite the fact that I love and use VSTs all the time, because it feels like every few years, a new VST comes out that trumps the old one and surpasses it. A great example of this, I grew up learning to produce in Native Instruments Massive. Anyone else remember Modern Talking? But now in 2025, almost no one uses that synth because it has been objectively surpassed by synths like Serum 2, Pigments, Vital, and more. So keeping that in mind, let's start the countdown of the only synths I will never sell with the one and only Sequential Circuits Prophet 10 Special Edition. The Prophet 5/10 was the one synth that I spent probably the longest time avoiding and had really no interest in buying because I'd already owned the Prophet 6, so I thought I had a pretty good idea of what the Prophet sound was, and I really just didn't understand how anybody could buy a synth with a single mono output that had no effects for that price in 2025. But the day I finally pulled the trigger, I was thinking to myself, I can make some patches, I can make a review, and if I don't like it, I can resell it. Within 5 minutes of playing the synth, I knew I had found probably the synth that I was going to use the most in my career. It seems crazy saying this because again, I've primarily been a software and Oberheim player my whole life, but with the Prophet 5, if you've played one, it immediately just feels right. It feels like home. And I think it's a testament to how much of a genius Dave Smith was that this design is largely the same as the Rev 1 Prophet 5 that was made in 1979. For me, this synth is just pure tactile inspiration. I love the way it sounds. I love the way it feels in my hands. The knobs are perfectly spaced out. It really is the archetype for all future polysynths, a great synth to learn on, and it's one I plan on holding on to until one day I can pass it down to my kids or grandkids. Next up is a synth that could not be more different, and that is the Gamechanger Motorsynth. Now, if the Prophet 10 is on my keep forever list because it's a certified classic, then the Gamechanger Motorsynth is the polar opposite. It is so weird and unique, and nothing else is like it on the market. This is a synth where I don't use it all that often, but when I do, nothing else can sound like this, not even a VST. For a lot of synths, there's VSTs that sound so good, they can get you 95% of the way there. For the Gamechanger Motorsynth, nothing can get you there. Nothing else sounds like it. It is truly one of the final frontiers of hardware synthesizers that, to my knowledge, has zero emulation and cannot be replicated. For those of you that don't know how the Motorsynth works, well, the name should give it away. It is a synthesizer that uses 8 brushless drone motors to create sounds by reading optical discs. The result is kind of like a mix between a tone wheel organ and some crazy futuristic dystopian synthesizer that can only be in your dreams. This is seriously one of the weirdest and most unique synths, and if you like industrial, heavy, experimental sound design, this is my favorite synth for that, bar none. It's the only synthesizer that I think does a unique take on this that can't be replicated at all with VSTs. I've seen the price on these come down quite a bit. Maybe the technology is getting cheaper, maybe the company is moving on to different things, but if you can find one of these on a good deal on a sale, and you're into that heavy experimental industrial music, this is truly one of the most unique synthesizers on the market today. For synthesizer number 3, it's another pick you might not be expecting, but one that I could not live without, and that's the Synths Perkons. I am not a drum machine guy at all. I do almost all my drums inside Logic with samples, with drum synthesizers, but the Synths Perkons, from the first moment I used it, it just captured my heart. This to me is the perfect mix of a drum machine and a performer's instrument. And not only that, it perfectly exemplifies my philosophy of character over features that I was talking about at the beginning of this video. A lot of people will criticize the Perkons for not being versatile, which is totally fair. It is absolutely like bringing a sledgehammer to a china shop if you're trying to use it in more pretty, calm music. But the positive trade-off of that lack of versatility is that nothing else can even come close when it comes to creating that massive, larger-than-life 9-inch nails going through a broken amplifier sound. My favorite way to use the Perkons, and I use this all the time, it's on my upcoming album for a lot of the fills, it's in a lot of the music I've done for ads and trailers. I love taking the Perkons, jamming, just getting lost in it, and then recording it into a blank project and chopping out my favorite sections and using them as loops and fills. This might be overkill if you only plan on using it a little bit, but for me, so much of the fun of synthesizers and hardware is in the joy of those happy accidents, and Perkons makes the cut of my never sell list because of the fact that it is a happy accident machine. And to me, that more than makes up for its lack of versatility. Quick sidebar here, I'm going to be reviewing the Hex drums really soon, which I have now, and I will let you know what I think compared to the Perkons, so stay tuned for my Hex drums video. Coming in at number 4 is probably the most obvious choice on this entire list, and that is, of course, the Oberheim Sequential OB-6. I know there are objectively probably better synthesizers if you want to have an Oberheim that has the maximum amount of tone, then go for the OB-X8 or a vintage. If you want the best value Oberheim on the market, the TO5 is just unbeatable. Check out my review of that. But the OB-6 to me is the perfect hybrid synth between the genius workflow and structure of a Prophet with the SEM filter and the beautiful variable filter shapes you can make of an Oberheim. I think the OB-6 is one of those synths where I've used it so much, and yet every time I fire it up and I use it, whether that's for in the studio use or even playing live. I brought this synth across the country, more on that soon, to play one show live in New York. I don't even bother really using presets, even my own presets. I'll just design a patch for every single sound that I want to make on this from scratch when I'm in the moment. And you can't put a price on a synth like that where you just know its limitations, you know how it sounds, and the OB-6 is that for me. There's just so many cool sounds that are in my music that I probably wouldn't be able to get, or at least not in the same way as using the OB-6, and it really has become a sonic signature of my Miles Away music, as well as a lot of the other music I make. My favorite thing about the OB-6 as well is that it has a really, really powerful distortion section, and the mixer just sounds phenomenal for saturating it, which a lot of other Oberheims don't have. The TO5 has digital distortion, which doesn't sound nearly as good, and the OB-X8 is a much more clean signal path overall with no distortion. So for me, the Oberheim fits really well into that halfway point between beautiful music and heavy, harsh music, which is probably what I'd define my sound as the most. But for me, this is such a sweet spot synth, and I will never get tired of it. Okay, now before we get to my last pick, I have some honorable mentions that might really surprise you. Now, my first honorable mention is the Groove Synthesis Third Wave. If you know my channel, you were probably expecting this synthesizer to be on that list. And let me explain. At the beginning of the video, I talked about why I don't have any VSTs on this list of synths I'll never sell, and to me, the Third Wave falls into that category a bit. Right now, I think it's safe to say it's the best overall synthesizer, if money is no object, on the market. But it's entirely possible that in 10 years, 5 years, someone comes out with another synth that has even more options, that has a faster menu system, that has the same filters but has more oscillator types. And for me, that's why this just gets an honorable mention rather than me saying for sure I'm never selling it. Another honorable mention for the exact same reason is the UDO Super Gemini. I think right now, this has been the most fun synth for me to play. And if I was more of a dedicated player versus producer, this would probably get the top spot because nothing else that I've ever tried has just been so fun to perform with. But I also think that the Super Gemini, because it tries to do so many things and does many of them well, but some of them not as well, it's possible that another synth from another manufacturer or UDO will come out in, 4 or 5 years that does this even better. So that's why I can't put these two monster poly synths on my will keep forever list. All right, and without further ado, the final synth on this list that I will never sell is the Moog Matriarch. Now, there's a funny story around the Moog Matriarch. If you haven't seen my video on it, go check it out here. But I actually bought the Moog Matriarch twice because the first time I bought it and I was so hyped, and I barely used it after several months because it didn't fit with the genre of music I was playing at the time. And I think I didn't fully appreciate its quirks because a year later, I'd been missing it in my workflow so much. And I can safely say now, I will never sell the Moog Matriarch I have. To me, this is truly like the final really, really great Moog. I know the Muse is great and I'm really excited to hopefully review one eventually, but the Matriarch to me, there's something symbolic about the fact that they took all of their heritage from the Moog modulars, the Moogerfooger delays, and put it into one synthesizer with a super divisive paint job that I love. I love the multicolored Matriarch. The delay, the dual filters, the paraphonic oscillators, all of these weird design choices just make it feel so different than a lot of the more utilitarian or traditionally inspiring synthesizers that I use all the time. And for that reason, no matter what happens, even if I end up getting different Moogs throughout my career, I will never sell the Matriarch again because I just love the way it makes me think about synthesizers differently. That brings me to the end of this video. Hopefully you enjoyed, and tell me in the comments below, what is your desert island synthesizer? What synth will you never sell no matter what? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.